guys, where are we going now?
We're going to the gas station.
Only 2 weeks left till the end of semester. Did you think what to write about on our second assessment accounting?
Well, I'm gonna write about ConocoPhillips. They're a multinational energy company. American, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it for Total. They're a French company founded in 1924. What about you?
I'm gonna write about French. I mean, Chevron, but it sounds like French, but it's American, you know?
Yeah.
It's founded more than 100 years ago.
Alright, nice.
Let's go then.
Let's go.
Haydi.
When is our project due, by the way?
I don't know, but I'm pretty nervous about the whole presentation thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous as well because actually I don't really know what our chumps company is gonna be.
Hey guys, I'm doing British Petroleum.
Alright, I will discuss the company financials, namely British Petroleum, Chevron, Total and ConocoPhillips. Let's first start with these BP guys. These guys suffered a lot from the oil spill in 2010. Therefore, they had to borrow lots of that. But I like the fact that they keep, providing the dividends. But it had both disadvantages and advantages. The disadvantage is that the amount of debt they have is 60%. It's too much, whereas the 40% is equity. So the main task of the managers is now to rearrange their financials. So the most of the financing comes from the equity. Let's move to Total, French. Good company. I really like the financials. Most of the profit, funding comes from the profit. And it helps them to attract the investors, because if most of the financials comes from the equity rather than debt, it proves that company will have long and stable growth. Considering the financials of Chevron, again, another good company, really strong, I think one of the market leaders. 89% of the financing comes from that, whereas 11% comes from the debt. It's a really good capital layout, It shows how good the company's debt to equity ratio is, so company is safe from unforeseen circumstances like oil spills, and as a result, in 2012, company showed really good performance, They had the highest earnings per share ratio, they had the highest return on equity, and they again ensured the competitive advantage. Let's move for the ConocoPhillips. Very unusual name. I saw it first, it's an electronic company, but it's turned out to be a gas and petroleum company. From the crisis of 2008, they started to decreasing their financials, their operating expenses. It helped them a lot, It helped them to come up with good profitability, at least break even. And now managers are working in order to further strengthen the financial layout, so they have more funding from the equity rather than the debt.
Alright, moving on to ratios. I'm going to start talking about BP, then I'm going to proceed with Chevron. After that, I'm going to look at Total, and then we'll conclude by looking at ConocoPhillips. First of all, BP has been performing better than the industry in terms of its net fixed asset turnover ratio. What this means is that the company makes a better use of its fixed assets than other companies in the industry. At the same time, this may also imply the underinvestment in the equipment of the company. In contrast, Chevron looks at investing opportunities. An increase in debt-to-equity ratio in 2012 is explained by an acquisition of, let me say, Acquired Atlas Energy Incorporated, which is the US-based gas company. The primary reason for this investment is to get hold of the certain gas deposits, very rich gas deposits in the area. However, due to hard economic conditions of 2009 and 2008, the world economic crisis, the company was forced to increase its amount of debt, which was later, of course, subdued by the management, who managed to lower this ratio, the percentage, up until 7% in the year of 2011. Curiously, debt equity ratio for Chevron is much lower than the industrial average, which is actually 60%, according to Canadian State Statistics Agency. Moving on to Total, it is even better off than Chevron. The most peculiar thing about Total is that it managed to preserve its return on capital employed ratio at around 16% over the period of 3 years. This has to be considered in the context of the increased amount of equity which the company has generated, and therefore to keep this ratio steady, it had to generate a higher profit. Therefore, in the long run, this company looks positive because it proves that it can generate higher amount of profit from its equity. Another company that looks optimistic in the long run is ConocoPhillips. The corporation does not rely on external funding. It generates profits basically based on the retained earnings of itself. So we can conclude that in the long run, the company does not have any big issues. However, in the short run, there may be some peculiar things happening because the current ratio of the company fluctuates too close to 1, which may signify certain issues in the long run.
In 2013, most of the companies are starting to invest more and more in corporate social responsibilities. And for example, British Petroleum has to distinguish itself from its competitors, and in order to do so, they're starting to invest more and more in alternative energies. For example, in 2012, British Petroleum has invested over $1 billion in alternative energy. This is done in their attempt to reduce their impact on the environment and reduce their carbon footprint. Looking at Total and their corporate social responsibility strategy, we understand that key factors in their strategy are employee equality, employee diversity, security, and worldwide development of economics and education. One thing that Total does for their to increase those traits is they're trying to facilitate the access of people of poor countries to education and energy. Also in 2012, the company has reduced its carbon emissions by the impressive 10%. Finally, the Total company is employing more than 96,000 people from over 130 countries worldwide, and hence they're creating stable jobs for more and more people every year. Chevron also has a very interesting corporate social responsibility strategy. For example, in 2012, they have implemented an unmatched water purification technology in their Pennsylvania production site. Also, Chevron is one of the industry leaders in employee safety and employee care. Finally, apart from their focus on employee safety and diversity, Chevron has spent over $60 billion for goods and services as stimulus for local economies in their host countries, and also $1 billion were invested by Chevron just to improve healthcare and education in poorer countries. Finally, ConocoPhillips has employed a very environmentally friendly strategy. They have a very big focus on biodiversity, and most importantly, they promote cooperation between the employees and their partners in order to come up with innovative and practical ways to deal with their current problems.
I'm going to talk about the company's governance, starting with BP. As a large corporation with a long history, BP has adopted board governance principles. Their compensation consists of 4 pieces: salary and pensions, performance shares, deferred bonus, and annual bonus. In general, the compensation mainly depends upon BP's performance in its implementation of goals by its shareholders. I'm gonna continue with the next company, which is Total. In terms of governance, Total is a company reflecting in corporate social responsibility views in management. Its board of directors consists of 15 people, 5 of which are women, and 27% of the directors are from a non-French nationality. The president of the company was compensated the formidable $2.1 million in 2010. Important to note is that the company has practiced an active corporate governance in accordance with French business associations. In terms of governance, Chevron Corporation is being number 11 in the Fortune magazine's global 500 biggest companies and utilizes the board governance principles. And an interesting fact to mention is that Condoleezza Rice, until 2001, when she left to become National Security Advisor of George Bush, was a member of Chevron Board of Directors and led its Public Policy Committee. Being a publicly traded company, Chevron provides all information on its operation and financial performance, including directors' remuneration report. ConocoPhillips strictly obeys and follows law, irrespective of the operation or activity taking place in the company. They are adding diversity to their board of directors, expanding their board committee roles and responsibilities, and further enhancing their processes around compliance and risk management. They are also focused on bringing greater clarity and transparency to their disclosures.
So look at this ratio, everybody. This one is.
So let's make.
Wait. So based on the analysis that we have concluded, what is the company we should invest in?
Well, BP enough for sure.
Yeah, BP looks really crappy. It's not gonna last long.
Well, I think based on our financial and ratio analysis, Chevron is the most sustainable business to invest
Yeah,
in.
Chevron
Yeah,
looks like
I
a
agree.
good opportunity. Yeah.
I can't believe actually Arctum is a service boy at the gas station. Wow.
Yeah, that's unbelievable, man. I mean, how can you work and study there?
I guess he must have just invested in that British petroleum company of his.